Los Angeles at dusk is a series of layers. Sunlight decanting down facades, car horns blooming like tired flowers, and the faint smell of hot tar cooling into night. The bus shelter on Wilshire shimmered with a sheet of heat that hadn't gotten the memo the day was over. Maya stood in the bent rectangle of shade like someone ducking behind a paper shield. She pressed her palms to the strap of her canvas bag hard enough to feel the stitching. She had walked for 30 minutes without turning around, but the sensation of being watched traveled with her. A film on the skin. A mall kiosk hawker had called after her. "Miss, free sample?" And she'd nearly flinched into the street. Calm down, she told herself. But her body wasn't in the mood to listen. The bus slid into view in a red blur. Metro Rapids 720, Wilshire inbound. When the doors sighed open, she stepped up, nearly missing the tap on her shoulder. She turned. A man in a suit, his tie loosened, his hair damp at the temples, stared past her with glassy eyes, thumb fishing in his pocket like he'd lost something. He didn't look at her face exactly. His gaze skated off and found the gum-stained sidewalk. "Did you?" he began, but the bus emitted a throaty cough, and the doors started to close. Maya moved. She scanned her tap card. The reader dinged without kindness. The driver's eyes flicked to the curb where the man in the suit hesitated. "You getting on?" the driver called in a voice that could police a kindergarten and a nightclub. The man shook his head, turned away. The bus hissed into motion. Only then did Maya notice a small brass key at her feet, attached to a cheap metal key ring and a vintage bus token. A souvenir, the kind sold in airport gift shops for people who remember what coins felt like. She put her toe over it, thinking, maybe not mine, then thought, nothing's anybody's until it is, and stooped. The key was warm as a borrowed breath. "Finders keepers," said the driver, not unkindly, as Maya straightened. The woman's nameplate read R. Salgado, and she wore a reflective vest like a soft suit of armor. Maya slipped the key into her bag and looked for a seat that wasn't under someone's elbows. The bus was city-full, students with headphones, a nurse in scrubs working a crossword, a tourist couple hunched over a paper map like it was a religious text. She felt the bus like a living thing beneath her, a long low animal purring. When she reached the middle section, where the bus bellied and the floor rose, a man stood and offered the aisle seat. "Go ahead," he said. His voice had the easy neutrality of someone who worked around emergencies and knew how not to make more. Dark hair, day's stubble, hoodie unzipped over a plain t-shirt. His eyes flicked over her face, not to measure her but to calibrate the distance she wanted. "Thanks," Maya said, sitting. She kept her bag on her lap. The window reflected a city she barely recognized, sliced into moving panes. Outside, Wilshire blurred past. A theater marquee missing bulbs, a line of jacaranda trees shedding slow purple confetti, a billboard for a charity gala she had seen once before, 2 lifetimes ago. "A hearth for every heart," the kind of slogan that sounds warm until you touch it. A corner of that old night tore free and fluttered inside her chest. She rubbed at it like you rub at a cold spot. Her phone, face down in her bag, began to buzz. Not ring. Buzz, as if the thing knew the difference between being called and being found. She glanced at the man beside her, who was looking down at his hands, thumbs brushing as if counting seconds. She pulled the phone out and saw the orange dot of a voicemail. No caller ID. The file name was a string of numbers that felt like a lottery you didn't want to win. She looked at the driver. R. Salgado's eyes were on the road, but something about the set of her shoulders said she was aware of her bus the way a pianist is aware of 10 fingers. The bus slowed, doors yawned, swallowed and spit out, people moved again. Maya put the phone to her ear. The message began with breath. Not a breath exactly, but the sound a room makes when someone just left it. Then a man's voice, smooth as a showroom floor. "You switch lines," he said. "Cute. But you know the city is a great big circle if you don't respect its corners. Next time, turn your phone off before you board, Maya." Click. The phone felt heavier. She slid it back into her bag like a bad thought under a rug. "You okay?" asked the man beside her. He had not moved to look, only angled his voice toward her like a seatbelt. "Fine," she said, which is what you say when the truth would take 2 seats and a window. Good, he said, with a small smile that didn't insist on itself. I'm Evan. He didn't ask her name. She felt perversely grateful for the manners of strangers. A kid with a skateboard rolled his wheels in small agitated quarter turns. An older woman in a Dodgers tee hummed to herself, something tuneless, but the repetition was calming in a way the city rarely was. Traffic on Fairfax congealed around them like syrup cooling into amber. The bus surged, braked, surged again. Somewhere, a siren tried to thread the needle of lanes and found only elbows. Is it always this bad? Maya asked, surprising herself by saying anything at all. On Fridays the city forgets how to breathe, Evan said. But it remembers how to honk. The bus shuddered to a longer stop. Outside, along the curb, a guy in a hoodie lifted a phone and took a picture of the bus interior through the glass. Not impossible tourists, art students, but the angle was too practiced, the wrists too steady. Maya turned her face just enough to make her reflection a smear. Hey, said the driver, not loud, not soft, simply calibrated. The photographer looked at her, then lowered his phone. The light turned green. The bus moved, and the city returned to pretending it wasn't watching itself. Maya breathed. In 2 stops, she'd get off and switch to the 20, then take Vermont down to a motel shaped like a horseshoe where the pool was more myth than amenity. She would sleep for 3 hours and then figure out next steps like someone who had a map. She slid her fingers into the bag to touch the brass key. The token tapped against bone. A tiny clink like memory trying the door. Old token? Evan asked mildly. Found it, she said. On the floor. Lucky day, he replied. But his eyes said he knew luck and found objects were cousins who didn't always speak. The bus jerked and coasted into the Fairfax stop. A small group surged forward. A man protesting the concept of lines announced he'd been waiting for like 6 buses, which didn't sound mathematically sound but felt spiritually true. In the crush, a shoulder clipped Maya's arm. Not hard. Just enough for her body to spill adrenaline into places it didn't need to be. She exhaled through her nose, counted down from 5. When the doors opened, heat poured in like applause. Her phone buzzed again, text this time. Unknown number. You left something with us. Don't make us return it. There was a pin drop icon. A map. Maya angled the screen away but not fast enough. Evan's eyes flicked. The way one looks at a pothole so as not to trip. Spam, he asked. Something like that. Trash it. Soon, she said. But the map pulled. Wilshire and Union. The pin sat on the station like a dot of blood. She debated. The motel could wait, and fear was a bad navigator. Still, the city was a maze unique to each mouse. If she followed the pin, she'd walk into their lines. If she ignored it, would they redraw hers? The doors folded closed. The bus angled back into traffic. Maya's gaze slid to the driver's mirror. In it, she saw herself. Eyes too bright, jaw too set. And beyond that, Ria Salgado's steady look. The driver met her gaze through the proxy of glass. It was not conspiratorial and not intrusive. It was a measure, then a nod as if to say, I've seen worse panics than yours and they all learned to breathe. Next stop, La Brea. The bus's recorded voice announced, sweet and unconvincing, like a stranger promising everything would be fine. Maya made a choice that felt like stepping off a map and onto a word. She pressed the signal cord. Here. Evan asked, not to veto, to understand. Yeah. Want company to the curb? I'll manage. He nodded, unbothered by the deflection. The bus hissed open. Heat and the smell of a sidewalk pretzel cart washed over her. She paused at the driver, an impulse that surprised her. Thanks, she said. For the ride? Ria asked. There was humor there, but something else too, attention. For noticing. Ria's smile was small and professional, but it reached her eyes. Keep your head on a swivel, she advised. And keep that token. The city loves a round trip. Maya stepped into the tangle of people and smells and car music. The doors closed. The bus exhaled and went on without her. A red comma in a sentence she wasn't done with. She walked south 2 blocks, cut west, then north. The trick she'd learned was to splice your own route, to teach the city not to predict you. The pin on her phone pulsed, a patient heartbeat. Union Station wasn't near, but it was where messages went to become decisions. When she stopped, it was outside a motel shaped like a horseshoe, its pool a sheet of generous lies. The vacancy sign stuttered, half of its tubes dead. She paid cash, asked for a room near the back, received a classic key fob the color of tired jade. The door opened on a room that smelled like new cleaning products working over old ones. She locked the door, wedged a chair under the knob, and sat on the bed with her shoes on, bag in her lap. She pulled out the brass key and turned it in her fingers until the cheap bus token pressed a circle into her thumb. Then she called her voicemail back and listened to the man's voice again, letting it be a thing outside her head, not inside it. Turn your phone off before you board, Maya. Too familiar, too informed, too confident of her choices. She opened notes and typed. Who had my number? Beneath it. A hearth for every heart. Board? Vendors. CFO? She added done? And shoreline shelter. Names that tasted like salt and eroded trust. Her eyes fell to the brass key. At the top of the key was a number etched lazily. 314. Union Station had lockers, the good metal kind. She had used them once when she thought she understood how long a secret could stay still. If the key and the text were connected, then someone wanted her at a place where cameras were as common as pigeons. That could be good or very, very bad. Her phone lit up with a news alert about the gala she hated. Fundraising totals, smiling faces. She put the phone face down and lay back, shoes still on like a runner pretending to nap. A ceiling fan stuttered. The room's air conditioner coughed into life. As she drifted, she thought of the bus again. How the aisle had narrowed into aperture. How the city had framed her without permission. And then she thought of the driver's eyes in the mirror. Steady, measuring, alive. The last thing she heard before sleep's velvet undertow took her was the echo of the driver's low voice. Keep the token. The city loves a round trip. When she jolted awake, the clock said 11:11, that unhelpful wish hour. Her phone had 3 new texts, all from unknown numbers. The first was a photo of the bus they'd ridden, taken from the curb. The second was a photo of her exiting. The third was just the locker icon, the number 314, and a single sentence. You're not the only one who can open it. She sat up. The air conditioner shivered as if sharing a thought. Maya put on her jacket, slid the brass key and token into her pocket, and stood in front of the motel mirror. She pulled her hair into a low knot to change her silhouette, dabbed a little foundation under her eyes to smooth the fear, and took a breath so deep it surprised her. Okay, she told the mirror. Let's respect the corners. She turned her phone to airplane mode and left it that way. Then she slipped into the night, toward Wilshire and the nearest bus stop, toward the station where strangers came to leave baggage and she came to claim it. Outside, the city smelled like warm asphalt and second chances. After midnight, Union Station was a cathedral stitched from tile and echoes. Travelers slept with their mouths open in the Grand Hall's pews. Luggage nested like faithful dogs at their feet. The ceiling's dark beams seemed less architectural and more like the ribs of a whale that had learned to swallow time. Maya kept her head down and her pace even. Running draws attention. Running is a neon sign that says, here. She moved like someone who belonged to the night shift, neither fast nor slow, invisible by being unremarkable. The lockers lived down a corridor that always felt colder than the air around it. Inside, fluorescent lights hummed with the secret confidence of machinery. Rows of metal rectangles, each with a number punched through, stood like soldiers who had learned stillness as religion. 314 waited near the middle, a square of destiny somebody else had ordered. She felt the city on her shoulders and then heard it, the scuff of rubber soles behind her, the choking cough of a vending machine that had failed at generosity, and the thrum of a maintenance cart that smelled faintly of lemon. She kept walking past the lockers and pretended to be lost. At the end of the aisle, she turned down another, paused to tie a shoe that didn't need tying, and glanced in the reflection of a stainless steel panel. A man leaned against a column, hood up, hands in the pocket of a jacket better suited to weather that wasn't here. He wasn't looking at his phone. He was practicing looking like furniture. Maya backtracked with a bored expression and stopped at 314 as if the number itself had called to her out of alphabetical order. She palmed the brass key slick with her own sweat. The vintage token clinked against it. "Remember what you are doing," and she slid the key into the lock. It turned. The door swung with that metal cabin smell. And inside was a document envelope, the thick kind that makes you feel rich even when you're not. Beneath it sat a prepaid phone. A blank little face waiting for instruction. The envelope was rubber-banded. The band had a faint suggestion of staples, as if it had kept papers together too long. She lifted the envelope. It had weight. Not just paper. The kind of weight that implies story. She closed the locker and turned to go. And that was when the maintenance cart's hum grew louder, rounding the corner like a casual apology. The man in the hood stood up from his column. Maya put the envelope under her arm, zippered her jacket halfway, and started walking. She did not look back. Looking back is narrative. Looking back is a stage direction that tells everyone else what the scene is about. "Miss," someone said with an accent she couldn't place, cracked by smoke and worry. She kept walking. "Miss," the voice insisted, closer. She felt the lathe of adrenaline begin to turn inside her chest, carving her breath into thinner pieces. She pushed through the corridor's door and the station's wider mouth. The maintenance cart continued past, its driver not looking at anything in particular. The man in the hood slowed, then turned in a different direction, as if reminded of an appointment with a different target. Maya didn't trust it. She crossed the grand hall at an oblique angle that made her avoid the slow pendulum of the camera mounted over the center. She took the stairs down to the east portal, then up again, doubling her own map. By the time she reached the outside air, her mouth tasted like coins. She dropped onto a bench and watched the dark throat of the night cough up a bus. It wasn't hers and she didn't take it. She waited until the need to move and the need to be still negotiated a treaty inside her. She walked to El Pueblo because there the city told itself older stories, and older stories sometimes protect the new ones. Under the shade of a tree that had seen more centuries than she had years, she slid the envelope open. Inside were photocopies of ledgers, names of shell companies with philanthropic exteriors and paybox hearts. She recognized Shoreline Shelter as a beneficiary. Transfers bled down columns, amounts scrubbed and rewritten. A child's drawing fell out, a crayon house with a sky too green, the kind of color choice that says the world is not being reported accurately by the people who are supposed to report it. In the corner, a name written shyly in careful block letters. Jonah. Beneath the papers a small half sheet. If you're reading this, the person who should have opened it couldn't. A phone number followed, handwritten, deliberate. She looked at the prepaid phone. Turning it on felt like stepping into the crosswalk on yellow. She pressed the power button anyway. The screen glowed, new and eager. No wallpaper, no history, one voicemail, 3 missed calls from the same number. No caller ID, just the 10-digit integer of a fate. The voicemail played. A child's voice, not baby, not teen. 8, 9. A boy with a mouth close to the phone to make the machine understand. "Hi," he said. The word was both greeting and test. "Is this Miss July? They said you're Miss July. I drew the picture. Are you coming?" The recording hiccuped. An adult voice in the background, low, calm female, said, "Jonah, don't." And the message ended as if edited with a dull blade. Miss July. Maya looked up at the moon slicing over Union Station's tower. She had used July once, as a silly alias when a woman at the shelter joked they should all be months to make intake go faster. How did the voice know? How far did the echo of a nickname travel when someone wanted it to? Her phone in airplane mode buzzed anyway. A phantom limb. She ignored it. The risk of turning it on wasn't worth the relief. She put the prepaid phone and the envelope into her bag, then folded the child's drawing and slid it into a smaller inner pocket like it needed a pocket of its own. Her bus would be along soon. Not the 720, not tonight. She chose the slower line, the one that hugged the city's belly and gave its ribcages names. She stood, and that was when she saw him again, Evan across the plaza, holding a paper cup as if he'd bought it for the purpose of standing. He didn't look surprised to see her. He looked relieved that she hadn't been erased. "You're hard to miss," he said, walking over, then realized how that sounded and changed. "I mean, I saw you leave the motel. The back camera's angle is ridiculous. You followed me?" "I followed a person who looked like she might need a second set of eyes," he said. He wasn't righteous about it. Just factual. "You're mad?" "I don't have time to be mad," she said. "I have time to make fewer mistakes than last time." "Good goal." He lifted the cup. "Also, there's a cop who's been watching the platform, and he's better at pretending to be furniture than the guy in the hoodie. If you want to talk to him, talk to him. If you don't. But his posture says he cares if someone gets hurt." "Posture says that?" "I used to read people's bodies for a living," he said, as if he were confessing to once having been employed by Gravity. "EMT. Before. Anyway, what did you find?" Maya hesitated. The city's night wind moved the edges of the paper cup lid like a quiet correction. She could keep carrying all of it alone, she had practice, or she could let a little light in and see if it killed the mold. "Ledger copies," she said. "Shell companies. A phone. A kid's drawing. A name. Jonah." Evan's face shifted in the way honest faces do when they understand something just gained stakes. "Kid," he repeated. "Not as a category. As a weight." The cop Evan had mentioned, Officer Grayson Lee, though she didn't know the name yet, stretched like a cat, casual, and turned away to talk into his shoulder radio. It felt choreographed enough to be real. "I don't know who to trust," Maya said, and it was not an invitation to argue otherwise. It was a weather report. "Then don't," Evan said simply. "Trust actions, not people. If someone's actions help, match them. If they don't, adjust." "Cold. Efficient," he said. "And temporary. Trust can come later, when your heart has space for hobbies." Something like a laugh dried on her tongue before it could become water. "I need to get out of sight." "The diner on Alameda," Evan said. "Truckers. Night shift nurses. Best cherry pie in a 6-block radius. And the counter's metal underside has a lot more carved into it than the health inspector would like. Including a phone number that might matter." "How would you know that?" "Because night people leave breadcrumbs," he said. "And I'm a collector." They walked together without touching, each one giving the other the courtesy of not being a silhouette to someone else. The station's lights made their shadows thin and obedient. At the diner, the doorbell chimed the way doors do in places that take coffee personally. The waitress had a half-moon smile and the kind of wrists that could carry 8 plates at once without speaking to Gravity about it. They took 2 stools near the middle. After a moment, while the coffee cooled from lava to drinkable, Maya slid her hand under the counter's lip and felt for grooves. Her fingertips skated over initials carved by bored night, phone numbers memorized and forgotten, and then found a shallow, careful scratch that made more pattern than damage. R. S. Call at shift end 213-555-0179. R. S. Evan read upside down as if letters were not subject to the laws of orientation. "Ria Salgado?" "The driver," Maya said. "You think she shifts over in 30, Evan said, checking the wall clock. "If it's her number, she's careful. If it's not, someone wanted you to think it was. Either way, call on the diner's landline." "You assume a lot," Maya said. "Night people," he said again, as if that were an explanation school should offer. "Also, you're right. I assume because it's faster and then I update." The coffee steadied her hands without calming them. She let the steam fog her glasses just to remember what it felt like to hide in something benign. Her prepaid phone buzzed, a polite little insect. She flipped it open. A text. "Did you find my picture?" Then a second later, "I can be quiet if you need quiet." "Jonah," she said aloud without meaning to. The waitress glanced over. Not with nosiness but with the curiosity of someone who knows nights produce good stories if you let them. Maya typed back with careful thumbs, "Yes. I found it. Are you safe?" Dots appeared, disappeared, returned. "We're in the room with the chairs that stick to your legs." "Ms. July, is the house going to have the right roof now?" Maya's eyes blurred. The diner became a series of shapes. She blinked until edges returned. She wrote yes. I'm working on the roof. Can I talk to the adult with you? A pause. Then, she says phones make trouble unless a good person is listening. Is a good person listening? Evan asked gently, reading her face, not her screen. I don't know yet, Maya said. She looked at the landline on the back counter. Can I borrow that? She asked the waitress. Quarter on the saucer, and I never saw you, the waitress said, amused. But if it rings, I pick up on 3. Health code. Fair. Maya dialed 213-555-0179. It rang twice. Yeah, said a voice that was all pluck and no nonsense. Ria. If you're calling this number, you're either in trouble or you like my jokes. I'd say trouble. It's Maya, she said, before realizing how much of herself she'd thrown into those 2 words. Maya from seat 15, Ria said, and there was no judgment in remembering. You got off early. Good impulse. You running toward something or away? Both, Maya said. I think you left me a number. I left the city a number in case it coughed up someone stubborn, Ria said. What do you need? I need to move something without being seen moving it, Maya said. And I need to keep a voice safe. Then you need more people, Ria said. Not fewer, but the right kind of people. Come back to the line at shift change. I'll introduce you to the kind who run toward noise the right way. Who? Someone who can make body cams and budget cuts do something useful, Ria said. And he drinks terrible coffee. As if cued by bad caffeine, Officer Grayson Lee stepped into the diner's doorway, his uniform jacket slung over one arm to make him look less like a declaration and more like a person. He saw Maya, saw Evan, did something with his face that was not a smile but wasn't a frown either, and took the stool 2 down without making a show of leaving a space between cop and citizen. Cherry pie, he told the waitress. And if you pretend it's dinner, I'll pretend I'm off duty. Every night, the waitress said. Maya covered the receiver. He's here, she murmured. I know, Ria said. Like I said. The right kind of noise. Maya hung up. Officer Lee looked over, eyes sharp but not cutting. You left a bus earlier, he said, as if recording an observation for a report he was writing in his head. Not a crime. But you looked like you wanted the ground to stop paying attention to you. That's hard to do in this city. I'm learning to respect its corners, Maya said. Good coursework, he replied. If you find yourself needing to file a report, file it with someone who knows which box it'll die in, and how to move it to a box where it won't. Is that you? Evan asked. Some nights, Lee said. Not all of them. But I collect those nights like spare change. Maya felt the brass token in her pocket, round and certain. The envelope in her bag whispered whenever she shifted, the sound of paper wanting to become action. She looked at the 2 men flanking her, one who read bodies, one who read paperwork, and thought, maybe this city didn't want her to be alone as badly as she'd believed. Maybe fate wasn't a force that dragged. Maybe it was a bus you boarded with the right people inside. The prepaid phone blinked. Another text from Jonah. I'm practicing quiet. I'm good at it. Maya typed. You won't have to be quiet much longer. Evan caught her eye. You sure? No, she said. But I want it to be true. And sometimes you have to say a thing before you can build it. Officer Lee's pie arrived. He pushed the plate away from the edge so it wouldn't fall if the knight bumped the counter. What do you need me to do? He asked the room, not just Maya. It felt like a question that gave her back parts of herself she'd had to pawn. I need to get something in front of people who can't pretend not to see it, Maya said. And I need a kid to stop needing to be quiet. Okay, Lee said, which was the kind of okay that meant logistics, lists, laws. We can make that happen. Outside, a bus side at the curb, doors opening tonight. The city inhaled, exhaled, and for the first time in too long, Maya felt her own breathing match it. Los Angeles wears midnight like a borrowed jacket. Too big in the shoulders, too short in the sleeves. By the time Maya and Evan left the diner, the plaza was a collage of light spill and long, obedient shadows. Officer Lee had taken his pie to go, a paper triangle of sugar and resolve, with a phone number scrawled on the receipt and an instruction that wasn't a command. If you move, text me a landmark, not an address. Landmarks the city can't forget, Evan said, reading the note. He's not wrong. They chose to walk. A cab would be conspicuous, a rideshare traceable. On Alameda, the sound of forklifts made a tinny orchestra behind loading docks. A night wind carried the cooled metal smell of trains and oranges from a street vendor, who had perfected the art of pretending his cart was invisible. Maya kept the envelope in her bag and her hand in the bag and her fingers on the envelope, as if the paper itself could run if she didn't hold it down. The prepaid phone, smaller than its weight in consequence, vibrated once like a heartbeat, checking it could still be felt. No new message. Just the echo of Jonah's last one, still open in her head. I can be quiet if you need quiet. On Fairfax earlier, a guy in a hoodie had photographed the bus interior. Quick wrists, practiced angle. Now, blocks away and hours later, the internet did its civic duty and transformed that fleeting act into 7 artifacts. Noah Park, grad student and cafe barista with a camera she treated like a second spine, had posted a candid bus photo to her small account. It was good grain kissed by neon, faces in half profile, the red livery of the 720 wreathed in exhaust. Art class met infrastructure. It would have floated by unseen if not for a single detail that might not have been a detail at all. Just beyond Maya's shoulder in the frame, a man whose posture said airport security and whose eyes said nothing. Evan spotted it first on his phone, scrolling an unassuming #LACommute tag stream while they waited at a crosswalk. The man's face was turned enough to avoid naming, not enough to avoid recognizing his type. Let me see, Maya said, stepping into the sliver of light near a shuttered storefront. She enlarged the photo until pixels lost patience. The man's jacket bulged in the wrong place for a wallet. He didn't hold the pole like a rider. He meant to be near the pole if someone else needed it. Evan tapped the caption. At Noah Park. Sometimes the bus looks like a movie still and sometimes it looks like a confession. Comments clean small. A friend. Teach me your low-light settings. Another, this is cinematic, Noah. No tag to Maya, no tag to anyone else. Just the city rehearsing being myth. Send that to Lee, Maya said. Evan did. The reply came in under a minute. Seen him before. Dunn's private staff sometimes moonlight as public concern. Don't go back to your room alone. They didn't, though Maya bristled at the advice anyway, as if safety were a hobby for other people. Evan suggested a detour through a 24-hour market. Inside, the fluorescent light was a pure and awful geometry that made strangers look like medical samples. They bought a bottle of water, a pack of gum, and the temporary currency of being ordinary. At the end of the aisle by the freezers, a corkboard held up the city's small declarations. Lost cat, tutoring offered, room for rent in Koreatown, band member wanted, ESOL classes, improv night. One index card had a corner torn off and a message printed neat. If you're being followed, call your own phone from a stranger's. No number, no source. A suggestion disguised as advice. I hate how helpful that is, Maya said. She put the idea in her pocket next to the brass token. Outside again, the city had decided to be quiet for a minute. That's how LA apologizes, with sudden quiet. They crossed to the bus stop under a streetlight that made everyone look like they were auditioning to be found. Do you ever think about fate? Evan asked, then shook his head at his own middle school phrasing. Sorry, that's not what I meant. The way bus routes tangle and how they make strangers share an aisle when the city's too big for even 2 people to touch. I think about corners, Maya said. He told me to respect the corners. It's stupid, but it's stuck. She flexed her fingers as if loosening the word's grip. Fate is just the shorthand we use when we don't have time to map why we're still alive. The bus came, and for a moment against her will, Maya expected to see Rhea at the wheel. Every bus suddenly her bus. It wasn't Rhea, of course, but the driver who was there glanced at Maya and didn't look away right away, the way night people notice each other. They boarded. The seat they chose had less to do with comfort than with sightlines. Maya watched the ends of the bus in the convex mirrors, the way the city bent them, The way people became shorter and truer in curved glass. Her phone, the real one, stayed dark in airplane mode. The prepaid sat warm against her thigh. A notification popped on Evan's screen. And Noah. Park had answered a comment. Shot on Fairfax outside the theater with the dead bulbs. It pinned place to time in the easy way of night owls. Under it, a new comment, fresh, 2 minutes old, no avatar. Do you have the raw? Might be evidence. Someone else is watching Noah, Evan said. Done, Maya said. Or Lee. Or a helpful stranger. LA is also full of those. Maya tasted metal. Or a stranger who thinks they're helpful. The bus collected them into its ongoing sentence and took them to the period where their stop would drop. They stepped out into a motel parking lot that smelled of chlorine's memory and cigarette certainty. The vacancy sign had recovered one tube out of mercy or spite. Their room was as they'd left it, chair still wedged under the knob, bedspread lying to itself about being clean. Maya inspected the bathroom with the unceremonious care of someone checking a friend's pulse. Nothing. No long hairs that weren't hers, no broken lock, no perfume that wasn't a product. She put the envelope on the small table, its presence a new piece of furniture. Evan set his phone to do not disturb but let Lee break through. An old trick from an old life. He stood at the window and tilted the blinds a hair. Across the lot, he said. Second floor balcony. New guy leaning on the rail like he's thinking about the ocean. That's not poetic, that's surveillance, Maya said. She shoved the envelope into the junta of takeout menus in the dresser. We can't stay here. No argument, Evan said. But if we run now, he knows we think we've been seen. If we wait, maybe we decide where we go next and how we look while going. Maya's body wanted to move. Her muscles had been practicing escape poses for hours. She forced breath's traffic through the lanes she chose. The prepaid phone vibrated. Unknown number. Don't make us return it. She typed without thinking and then deleted before sending. The bone-deep compulsion to answer power with noise was strong. She let it pass like a wave she chose not to surf. Tomorrow, Evan said into the dark. Not to her and not to her. Tomorrow we move the papers. Maya looked at the dresser where the envelope sat in the mouth of junk and thought of the city like a person. Capricious, bigger than it admits. Available to anyone who knows how to sit next to it without asking for too much. She closed her eyes. In the distance, a siren started and then remembered what hour it was and sat down again. At 4 a.m. The horseshoe shape of the motel did its trick, funneled sound to the inner courtyard like an amphitheater. A car door shut too carefully. A laugh held down by a palm. The soft plasticky drum of a keycard against a door that shouldn't need one. The room to the left of theirs, 10B, flushed a toilet, then did nothing with that information for a full minute. Then footsteps. Maya's body came awake in pieces, the way a crowd stands for a national anthem. She didn't move her head. She allowed her ears to become big. Evan on the chair was already awake, spine pretending. He raised 2 fingers, 2 people outside. The knob shivered very lightly, less like someone trying to open it than like someone making sure it wouldn't. Then nothing. The silence afterward was heavier than the noise had been. A minute. 2. The prepaid phone muttered to itself in the dresser. Battery warning. The sound, tiny as it was, felt like a flare fired in a church. The softest scrape at the window, the kind you feel through your molars. Evan's finger to his lips, a classic gesture, upgraded by the authority of tracked breathing behind it. He stood with a motion that made no enemies and pressed his palm flat against the part of the glass where the lock was. He didn't look at Maya. He looked at the idea of not being surprised. The scrape moved away. On the balcony, a cough. Not the fake cough men supplied to announce polite presence in a hallway. A wet one. A signal that someone's body had more germs than politeness. Then a whisper too soft to catch and a retreat. The sound of the ice machine starting its grumpy day. Maya realized she'd been counting. The pre-dawn light had that particular paleness that makes motel curtains look like they were designed by a tired angel. She exhaled and it sounded like a confession. They know we're here, she said. A person who wants to be intimidating and a person who wants to be sure are hard to tell apart in the dark, Evan said. Either way, Dawn is our friend. We need to move. Yes, he said. But not like rabbits. Like people who have planned to be somewhere else the whole time. It shouldn't have calmed her as much as it did, but it did. They packed with that careful speed of travelers whose dignity comes from folding. Maya slid the envelope into the canvas bag under a layer of t-shirts with a precision that bordered on tenderness. She left a business card on the dresser, someone else's charities face down, edges aligned to the wood grain. A small misdirection in case someone measured their absence in paper. At the office, the sleepy clerk from earlier was gone, replaced by a woman whose hair said she'd made peace with humidity 3 lifetimes ago. Checking out? The woman asked, as if it were personal. Early flight, Maya said. The woman nodded, the way clerks do when presented with lies that are not offensive to the profession. Outside, the sky rehearsed blue without committing. They crossed the lot. The man on the second-floor balcony lifted his coffee cup in a salute with no particular country. Close up, he looked more like a contractor than a threat, more tired than dramatic. His eyes, though, they did inventory. Landmark, Evan murmured, texting Lee a photo of a faded mural near the lot that read it's a long story, as if trying to be helpful. He added, leaving now. 10 minutes west. 1 north. Same sun. The reply, Koreatown. Day crowd better. Cameras. Don't lead anyone to a friend's door. Koreatown meant people, noise, the camouflage of labor. It meant coffee too, and Noah if they needed eyes that made art into evidence. They took the bus that wove through the waking city with the patience of a needle getting bored. Half an hour left in Ria's shift if her math was right. The thought of the driver's voice calmed Maya in a place where yoga had failed. Night people leave breadcrumbs. Ria had left a number carved under a counter and a promise about someone who made budget cuts forget themselves. On the bus, Maya watched her own reflection gel and resolve in the window. She looked like someone who had been awake too long and had the nerve to continue. Evan dozed for 5 minutes the way medical people do, total, efficient, intimidating. When he woke, he looked refreshed and mildly annoyed that he was still human. They got off near a diner that smelled like a friendly truck. Ria wasn't there. Shift was probably over. But the waitress was, and the coffee honored its promises. Maya took the same stool and slid her hand under the counter to touch the carved R.S. Again. An index of trust you could read with your fingertips. The prepaid phone, charged on the bus with a cord that had seen better outlets, vibrated. Unknown number. Teleconference moved up. Noon. Auditorium. Don't be late, Mr. Dunn. A wrong number that wasn't wrong. Or a right number that wanted to sound wrong. Maya typed back a period and deleted it. She saved the number as not done. Her notes app collected more nouns. Telemetry, telethon, auditorium, not gala but maybe rehearsal. Noon. Cameras. If Dunn could pull weight in public, he would. If he had to shore up a leaky wall, he'd throw a press event at it and tell the city to admire the paint. Today, she said softly. Not to anyone and not to anyone. He's moving today. Good, Evan said. So are we. They left cash and a thank you that wasn't performative. Outside, Koreatown folded and unfolded around them. Church signs in 2 alphabet systems. Barbecue smoke rehearsing dinner before the day had decided what it wanted. A woman running in pink scrubs with the stride of someone who had invented time management. Maya stopped at a copy shop and bought a cheap USB. She asked for 15 minutes at a rented computer. The proprietor looked at her with the exhausted kindness of men who keep small machines running and said, "Cash up front," in a tone that implied he'd been taken advantage of enough for both of them. She scanned 5 of the ledger pages, not all, and made a PDF called Donor List of. She added 3 photos of the child's drawing, one of the hole, one of the corner with Jonah, one close on the roof, renamed them with gardening terms nobody would want to click. She emailed the package to a burner account she'd made previously named like a recipe blog. She printed 2 ledger pages and put them inside an old magazine from the rack. Breadcrumbs, Evan said. For later, she said. If we are separated, leave this where the city can find it. Library returns bin. Bus seat back. Church bulletin board. I don't care. Optimistic, he said. Redundant, she corrected. The Noah problem solved itself like a polite math problem. In front of a cafe strung with filament bulbs, Noah Park sat on the curb, a camera in her lap and a pastry on a napkin, looking at the screen of her phone with a furrow that brought her eyebrows together like a zipper. The cafe's door was open. The music played a song about longing that had agreed to show up disguised as a beat. Maya approached like you approach a stray animal you want to befriend. Your photo, she said, gentle. On Fairfax. It's good. Noah looked up, startled and then evaluating. She had the soft hair of people the city hasn't decided to be cruel to yet. Thanks? I'm in it, Maya said. And I think you caught more than light. Noah's eyes widened. They did the scan from face to phone to frame and back. Oh. A pause in which she politely learned to keep a secret. Do you want me to take it down? Not yet, Maya said. But if someone asks for the raw and they will, don't send it. Send it to this cop instead. She showed Lee's number as if it were a token. And if anyone says they're with a charity, they're not with the charity you think. Noah laughed, a small burst that had nothing to do with humor. I work a shift where people cry when you put decaf in the wrong cup, she said. I can tell when kindness is a scam. Who's the kid? Maya didn't ask how she'd seen Jonah's drawing folded under the cafe table's shadow. Noah must have the eyes doctors wanted to borrow. Someone who shouldn't need to whisper, Maya said. Noah nodded like she'd been assigned homework she wanted to do well. I can blur faces, she said. I can write a caption that sounds like a poem but is actually a warning. And I can give you 5 minutes if someone with a radio arrives. Good, Evan said, surprised into respect. Noah's phone buzzed. They already asked for the raw, she said. No avatar. Probably a man in a dated suit. Send them a cloud link that looks real, Maya said. Password protect. Call the password roofline. See who guesses it. She didn't know why she trusted Noah in 2 minutes. She just did. Night people. Noah smiled, a bright, compact thing. You're good at this, she said. No, Maya said. I'm tired of being bad at it. By 10 a.m. The city had remembered ambition. Forklifts sang, food trucks rehearsed lunch. A leaf blower went to war with nothing. Maya and Evan sat in the library's quiet back corner beneath a mural of oranges and laborers that had the audacity to be optimistic. They spread the ledger copies like tarot and asked numbers to do what numbers do when you let them talk. Patterns revealed themselves like bruises. Shoreline Shelter appeared as a payee, and a payer in a way that made charity look like a laundering cycle. The shell companies, Sunrise Port Management, Silver Dory Holdings, A Hearth for Every Heart Events LLC, moved money in amounts that matched gala invoices, but on days that no barbacks would remember. Routing numbers repeated in a rhythm that common sense found offensive. Here, Evan said, tapping one figure with a pencil like a conductor picking a section to scold. 72,360. Same as the fundraising goal they announced in that alert last night. The We Did It number, Maya said. The one that goes in emails. It moved 2 days before the gala, Evan said. Where was it supposed to be? Where did it go? Tell 'em. Tell 'em could be the telethon they're pivoting to, Maya said. A noon event masquerading as a community forum. Get cameras, wag tongues, bury ledgers. Or telemetry, a donation match dashboard. Or Telemundo if he wants bilingual cover. Maya's pen hovered. Dunn loves a crowd, she said. He needs one today. He needs a narrative to run faster than these numbers. If we leak now, it becomes he said, she said. If we show and show, not tell, these columns while he's rolling tape. We become the tape, Evan said. Dangerous. We get Jonah a roof, Maya said. He didn't argue with that math. Her prepaid phone buzzed with a call that didn't ring sweet. She looked at Evan. He spread his hands. She answered. A woman's voice, low and taxed and careful. Is this Miss July? Yes, Maya said, the word a cloak. Are you with Jonah? Yes, she said. He's safe. For now. The pause contained paperwork, bureaucracy, the awful waiting room chairs that stick to your legs. People came with cameras last week, the woman said. Said they were auditing. said they were donors. They took photos of binders. Dunn came himself, shook everyone's hand and told the walls to behave. What's your name? Maya asked. Names are a luxury, the woman said. Call me R. I don't work for him. I work in the same building as people who think they do. What do you need? A reason, the woman said simply. A permission slip to say no to people who smell like cologne and keep their jackets on in August. Maya thought of Ria's command voice, Lee's pie, Noah's bright eyes, Evan's economy. She said, at noon today he'll be on a stage. Don't let anyone sign anything or move anyone. Keep Jonah with you. If a man asks you to smile for a donation counter, aim the phone down. There will be a different camera. The cities. A long silence. Okay, R said. I'll lose my job. You'll have another by sundown, Maya said, and thought of Lee, and Press whose number she still needed. Text me your building's fire code capacity, and the name of the property manager. Not to burn it, to make sure nobody gets to pretend the law is decorative. Okay, R said. He calls it tell him like a friend. Noon. The call ended. Maya exhaled like someone easing weight onto a beam. Evan had been scanning the mural like a map. Numbers don't save people, he said. But they let you tell the story without needing a villain to monologue. Numbers make a promise, Maya said, that if you follow them long enough they turn into names. And names turn into hands. And hands turn doorknobs. Her real phone remained an island in airplane mode. She took it off, just for a minute, long enough to dump pre-composed emails with a PDF bundle to an investigative reporter who owed her a favor she'd never collect and 2 city auditors whose boredom could become justice when pointed. Subject lines boring, body text boring, attachments disguised. Then she breathed out and turned the phone dark again. Where? Evan asked. Where is the noon tellem? Auditorium suggests a city property with seats and lights, Maya said. Where would a non-profit rent by the hour? Library auditorium, community college forum, or a Parks and Rec theater that hasn't talked to its budget since '09. Evan texted Lee noon event. Tell him. Done. Likely public forum. Need venue. We'll meet you at the door, not before. A beat. Then another. Reply. Central Library Auditorium. 11:50. Ria's bringing something you forgot you needed. Maya smiled without permission. What do I always forget I need? She asked. Permission to arrive, Evan said. They packed the papers again into flat piles that looked like they added up. On the way out, Maya slipped the magazine with ledger pages into the book return slot. It fell with a thunk that sounded like a promise disguised as litter. Outside, the city had fully chosen day. Ria's bus flashed past on an adjacent street and didn't stop, but Maya saw the silhouette of her arm steady on the wheel, and the edge of her smile and profile, the expression of someone who knows where the route ends and understands that's not the same as where she will. The brass bus token in Maya's pocket warmed against her palm, as if remembering all the hands it had traveled through. She squeezed it and imagined it was luck and imagined it was history and decided it was both. Then she and Evan crossed the street toward noon, toward cameras, toward numbers that would have to say their names out loud. The Central Library Auditorium smelled like old carpet trying to remember speeches. Noon had the gall to be bright outside. Inside, lights flattened faces into consensus. Volunteers and lanyards performed the choreography of events. Gestures practiced until even sincerity looked staged. On stage, Dunn wore philanthropy like a fitted suit. A graphic behind him read Tell 'em. A hearth for every heart community briefing. A donation counter digital cheerful. Idled at $0 waiting for its cue. Cameras from 2 local stations crowded the aisle, and 3 phones on sticks did the psychedelic bobbing of streams looking for an angle. Maya and Evan stood in the back with Ria, who looked like she could drive a room the way she drove a bus. She handed Maya a folded Metro safety vest, and a lanyard clipped to an old event logistics badge. You forgot permission to arrive, Ria said. This city respects uniforms even when it underpays them. Wear it and you're a hallway. Maya slipped the vest on. The cheap reflective tape made her an object and not a target. Evan donned the lanyard and instantly looked like the guy who knew where the extension cords lived. Lee? Maya asked. Back left, Rhea said without moving her mouth. There he was, Officer Grayson Lee in a plain blazer, the police in him hiding behind the posture of a man who collects meeting minutes. He caught Maya's eye and tapped his pen twice. Wait for the wrong word. Dunn's microphone found its favorite frequency. We're here, he said, rich and measured. To connect telemetry to generosity, to measure need and meet it. Today we launched Telem, a transparent dashboard to track the impact of your gifts in real time. Telemetry. The word made the donation counter's zeros feel cocky. A volunteer pinned a lapel mic to a woman in a navy dress. CFO Halima read. Maya knew the name and the careful way she did columns in her sleep. Dunn's smile performed warmth in her direction. Halima will walk us through the financial architecture. Lee's pen tapped once now. Maya moved. Safety vest parting the crowd. She slid along the aisle's wall to the AV table where an HDMI switcher blinked like a nervous animal. The USB she prepared sat warm in her pocket. File names boring as toast. She leaned to the AV tech, voice low and bored like logistics always asks for. We've got the updated donor dashboard assets from operations. Donor list and archive. Just named weird from IT. You'll want them before his Q&A. Otherwise the counters default to test mode. Remember the dry run? She pointed at the laptop screen with an annoyed sigh as if this had already been argued. The tech, sweat at the temples trenched deep in the day's second crisis, blinked, grateful to be told what went where. Dump it in the pre-show folder, he asked. Yep. She plugged in the USB, dropped the disguised PDF bundle, and the 3 Jonah images renamed as garden terms. The tech clicked without reverence, hungry for the feeling of solving something. Maya glanced at Evan. He had drifted to the stage left curtain, lanyard earning him a nod from a bored stagehand. On stage Halima spoke. You'll see here how funds move from gala night pledges through vendor invoices to grants dispersed to partners like Shoreline Shelter. The screen behind her glitched, one frame of teal, then a splice to the PDF's first page. A hearth for every Heart Events LLC disbursement summary. Line items. Dates. Amounts that matched gala nights but settled on Tuesdays. Another page. Sunrise Port Management vendor remit. Same account number surfacing under different masks. A murmur ran the room like a breeze seeking curtains. Cameras tilted. Dunn's smile tried to recalibrate and failed to load. Halima turned. Lips parted just enough to let disbelief out. The third slide hit. The child's drawing crayon house, the sky too green, Jonah careful in the corner. Then a fourth. The corner zoomed, the roof thick and wrong, scribbled as if the sky had been told to lie. Fifth. The ledger line where Shoreline Shelter both paid and was paid. Same day, different hands. Switch. Switch. Dunn hissed at the AV table, but the tech was already mid-panic, clicking back into the slideshow like a swimmer clawing for a ladder. Too late. The room had seen. Lee was recording, not the screen, the people. The counter still read $0, but that wasn't the math everyone was doing. Maya stepped to the audience mic aisle and raised a hand as if asking about parking validation. Question, she said. Her voice had the caution of someone who'd been punished by microphones before. In Q3, why did a hearth for every Heart Events LLC pay Sunrise Port Management from an account shared by Silver Dory Holdings? And why did funds marked for Shoreline Shelter move the day before the gala they were raised at? A vacuum forms between claps and boos. The room found it. Ma'am, Dunn said, smooth going brittle. This is neither the time nor the place for. It's exactly the place, Lee said from the back, voice not loud and not small, just official enough to get eyes. This is a public briefing. If the telemetry is transparent, answer the question. Halima looked at Dunn. He held the smile like a jaw set against a dentist. We are proud partners. Maya felt Rhea's hand on her elbow. Not too long, the touch said. Make your hit clean. Maya nodded, stepped back. Let the room metastasize. Noah had slipped in when? And was filming not the stage but the crowd. A mother pulling her child's hood up. A donor lowering his phone. A volunteer pressing a thumb so hard into a badge that the plastic bent. Narrative wasn't on stage anymore. It was in the seats. The screen went blank. Dunn recovered his pitch like a bandleader restarting a song. "We'll release a statement," he said, and the donation counter flickered to $500, then $0 again. As if even software refused to play along. They left through the side hall that smelled like dust and secrets. Lee met them under a water-stained ceiling tile. "That was a felony with better lighting," he said to Maya, not unkindly. "You also just made it harder for them to bury paper." "Good," Maya said. Her hands trembled now that they were off stage. "He's moving." "He will move now," Lee said. "So should we." Rhea stepped between them with the calm of a person who'd landed a bus in rain. "Next route," she said. "And this time you don't pick the stop signs. You listen." Maya did. For once, letting someone else hold the wheel felt like a strategy, not a surrender. The first time Maya met Dunn in person, there were fairy lights and champagne and the sort of ignore-the-rent laughter that comes in hired rooms. She'd been a caseworker then, bad at small talk, good at forms. She didn't dress like the party. She dressed like someone who had to walk home in a city that resented feet. A hearth for every heart glowed on plexiglass. There was a silent auction where people bought experiences to prove they could feel. She hovered near the coffee urns until the CFO, Halima Red, found her with the tired radar of women doing math in rooms full of men consuming narrative. "You're with Shoreline?" Halima asked, voice soft from use. "Contract," Maya said. "We keep families unbroken when we can." "Glue. Tape. Bad magic." Halima's mouth made a shape that meant same church, different pew. "We just got the new vendor kit," she said, a little laugh tucked into the last word. "We're paying Sunriseport for a venue consultancy. For a shelter gala." She shrugged. New language, same tables, same chairs. In the kitchen corridor, the night pulled back its sequins. A clipboard sat unattended on a rolling cart, and human frailty did the rest. Maya wasn't a thief. She was a historian with bad boundaries. She took a photo, one page, a routing number that matched a whisper she'd heard in a different hallway from a CFO whose name she learned too late. She tucked the photocopy between spare liners and did the dangerous thing. She told someone, a new shelter admin with eyes too brave. 2 days later the admin was gone. Resigned for family reasons. Then the boy, Jonah. A nervous tumble of elbows and questions, drawing roofs like someone who didn't trust them. "Miss July, can a roof be wrong?" he'd asked. She'd smiled and said roofs were fixable, like most things. She told him July because he asked for a secret name and because she thought it would stay small. When the audit cameras came, they weren't audits. They were prop checks. Dunn shook hands. Halima did columns. The shelter's director, long practiced at making one apple look like two, smiled for a photo and got a second apple bruise for her trouble. And then the call that was not a call, the message that said turn your phone off before you board. In the space of a week, Maya's number set had grown. Blocked, unknown, private, mistake. Mr. Dunn had never said her name. He never needed to. The city said it for him. "Why didn't you quit?" Evan asked now, as they rode the elevator to the parking level where Rhea parked on luck. "Because I forgot how," Maya said. "And because if I left, July would still be there with the wrong roof." The elevator bell dinged like a polite warning. The doors opened to concrete lit by unconfident fluorescence. Rhea guided them to a city pool sedan she could use when her route needed gear. "Don't look so alarmed," she said. "Union rules say I'm a person. Persons have trunks." They got in. Rhea flicked on a dash camera the size of judgment. "You're mic'd," she told Maya. "If you say anything you regret, blame me." "That'll be new," Maya said. As they pulled out, Lee called. "I've got 2 things," he said. One, your Noah posted a version of the auditorium moment that didn't show anyone who didn't sign up for being shown. It's moving, and it made the donation counter look like a bad joke. 2, we pulled the bus cam from your first ride. Guess who rides like he owns gravity? Dunn's security chief, Maya said. Marcos Ives, Lee said. Ex-corporate security licensed. He was on your bus 2 nights ago in a different jacket. That's not illegal. Tailoring honesty is not a crime. But it's a pattern. Patterns are the city's handwriting. Rhea said. And I like reading, Lee said. Don't go home. You don't have one and they'll be there waiting. I'll ping you when I can make a room that isn't a trap. Maya ended the call, felt the token in her pocket warm like agreement. Rhea merged into traffic with the authority of someone whose day job is shepherding steel. So? She asked. Now what? Now he tries to close, Maya said. He doesn't sue. He's not the sue type. He rearranges the horizon until you forget it used to be level. Rhea nodded. Then we paint on it. They ditched the vest and the lanyard 4 blocks from a Koreatown bus transfer. The day had become noisy in a way that made hiding easy for everybody and hard for people who needed to breathe. Maya kept her bag crossbody and her eyes where her hearing told her to. Noah texted a link, her edit of the auditorium, a 30-second cut that made the ledger lines feel like verbs. The caption read, "Transparency works better when it's not terrified." Comments sprouted like weeds. The thing had jumped neighborhood. Too fast, Evan said, equal parts impressed and worried. Fast is all we have before spin, Maya said. They boarded the 204. Midbus, Maya sat facing the accordion joint. She liked the vantage. Evan stood and held the pole with EMT grace. Across the aisle, a man in a charity polo looked like he'd dressed in a company closet. He smiled at everybody without making the mistake of picking one person to smile at. Marcos Ives didn't ride like security today. He rode like a donor liaison, the plastic smile molded to conference panels. Maya pressed her knee against the bag. Her pulse wrote its own language. Evan met her eyes, then looked at the stop cord, their private escape hatch, and back to her. She shook her head. Not here. Not yet. Marcos didn't move. Smart tail. He let the idea of him do work. The bus announced Olympic with a voice that sounded more certain than the street looked. A couple got on with roses in brown paper sleeves and needles of thorns like honesty. A boy practiced a magic trick badly and got the coin to disappear only into the seat crease. Then the bus braked too hard. A motorbike filleted traffic and the driver cursed a version of physics. Someone fell forward. A woman cried out and then laughed as if to return the noise to the world. Evan moved. My stop, he said too loudly to no one and stumbled on purpose, into the charity polo's knees. He went down just enough to require hands. Sorry, hip. He turned his shoulder and half sprawled into the aisle, blocking it with that perfect amount of accident. Marcos had to help. He couldn't not. Security by training, PR by wardrobe, he reflexed into assist. Maya stood in the sliver that created and slid past, dinging the stop cord with a finger as light as theft. At the door, she turned like someone reminding a stranger about the wallet they just pocketed. Thanks, she told Marcos, as if he'd held her seat earlier. His face flickered, surprise trying to become a plan. She and Evan exited into heat and noise. The bus sighed its politics and moved. Marcos stayed on, pinned by decency and inertia. Their block dissolved into the game board of side streets they'd practiced in their heads. You staged an EMT near fall, Maya said, half laughing, half vibrating. Can't turn it off, Evan said. Bodies fall. We catch. Sometimes it's a tactic. They ducked into a pharmacy where the air smelled like menthol, and the magazine rack pretended culture could be bound. Maya bought Band-Aids and a map, the latter an act of faith in paper. On the way out, she clocked a convex mirror mounted over the door. A man in a windbreaker not suited for the weather pretended to buy batteries. She couldn't see his face and she didn't need to. Tale number 2. The prepaid phone purred. They're setting up telem stations in our lobby. I moved Jonah and 4 others to the art room. Told them it was a game. He drew a bus this time. It has wings. Maya swallowed a sound she didn't have time to call feelings. She typed, keep the wings. We're building landing gear. Then to Lee, 2 tails on 204. 1 in charity polo, Marcos. 1 windbreaker. We shook the first. Second sticky. Headed to Ria's. Reply. I've got eyes on windbreaker from a camera you helped me fund last quarter. Thanks for your taxes. Don't go to a place you've already been. Diner, Evan suggested. Diner, Maya agreed. Midday diner isn't night diner. It's nurses swapping shifts, teenagers late to learning, men with newspapers because their phones are arguments. The bell over the door announced them like an alibi. The waitress clocked them and didn't change temperature. Booth, Evan said. Corner. They slid in. Maya let the vinyl do that small undignified suction sound and decided it was a benediction. She looked under the table edge for the carved R.S. a tactile anchor, and felt new scratches she hadn't noticed before. Letters that weren't letters. A route number? A time? She traced it with her finger and wrote it in pen on a napkin. Art Sun 5 p. Evan raised an eyebrow. Art walk? Sunday at 5, Maya said. Rhea planting a flag. Or someone using her initials to plant a trap. Either way it's a schedule, he said. Schedules are leverage. The windbreaker didn't come in. That said more about him than if he had. He waited across the street and studied a bus stop ad like it would tell him how to live. A city truck idled and ruined his line of sight. Noah texted a photo from 3 blocks over. Windbreaker badly disguised. Caption. Your friend hates sunlight. Wants to be a roomer. Lee called. He just got a text and moved, he said. And there's a second car doing laps. You've got 10 minutes before either they realize the diner is interesting or they decide they're hungrier than curiosity. Then let's be a bill they don't want to pay, Maya said. They settled up, left too much cash like people trying to change karma's mind, and exited through the kitchen with a nod from the cook who saw everything and stored it under recipes. In the alley, heat went up from the asphalt like a rumor. Rhea's pool sedan rolled into view as if called by the habit of good timing. In, she said. Seat belts. We're merging. They did. Rhea drove like a person who knows the exact length of a city block and resents its ego. She took 3 rights to make a left and used a delivery truck as a curtain. Windbreaker turned north too late and missed them. Art walk? Maya asked, showing the napkin. Rhea grinned. Tell me you hate crowds and I'll tell you how helpful they are. 5 p.m. Sunday. I can get a bus on a detour for 15 minutes if I call a hydrant break in the right place. Isn't that? Evan began. A creative interpretation of infrastructure, Rhea said. Also legal if there's a hydrant. And there's always a hydrant. Dunn will bring security, Maya said. He'll try to stage his own crowd. Then we outstage, Rhea said. With kids and numbers and a roof that's tired of being wrong. Maya's phone, her real one, stayed dark. The prepaid sang a brighter note. Noon statement posted. She clicked the link and saw Dunn on a white background, sincerity at 70%. Misinformation, he said without saying the word. Context, he said without providing it. He invoked the vulnerable, like a magic spell, and raised $1,800 in 3 minutes from people who liked spells. Spinning, Evan said. Let him, Maya said. Sunday we speak over music. They gave the windbreaker 3 hours to get bored of Koreatown. In the lull, Lee texted 5 names of city properties where Dunn had rented rooms in the last year and 3 routing numbers he'd pulled from a subpoena that had learned to walk. Noah sent a short clip of Jonah's bus with wings projected, with permission, onto the side of the cafe's refrigerator, the neighborhood's version of a gallery. Maya and Evan returned to the diner at dusk. Night was more honest here. The waitress placed cherry pie like a plan and slid a Sharpie across the table without being asked. In case the table needs more table. Under the counter beside R.S. a deeper gouge weighted AR is not equal to DAR, and under it roof equals proof. Rhea left homework, Evan said. Art walk is not tell 'em rally, Maya translated. And the roof is the proof. The kid's drawing, Evan said. We don't need to accuse. We need to show the roof is wrong where the ledger says it should be right. Visual, Maya said. We project the roof over numbers in a place with cameras bigger than Dunn's. Sunday, Rhea said, slipping into the booth like a regular who didn't need permission. I can line up the route so a bus stalls near the art walk for a scheduled detour. Doors open, standing load, cameras inside and out. You walk on with nothing but a token and a drawing. You don't say done. You say roof. Even the cynical like a fix-it story. Won't security shut it down? Evan asked. Not if the bus is full of citizens and 2 city council aides who love pretending they were part of a moment, Rhea said. I'll make a few calls. Lee. Maya asked. Wires it all so we break no laws, Rhea said. He's allergic to paperwork. And he's bringing someone who can yank the right permits out of the right drawer at an indecent hour. Maya took the token from her pocket, felt its history again. Hands to hands to hands. She placed it on the table. The metal caught the diner's light and made a ring as it settled, small, certain. The prepaid phone glowed. He's moving kids to the auditorium Sunday. Says cameras love faces. Brought balloons today. Told us to lighten the room. Jonah asked if the roof would have a window. Maya replied yes. A skylight. Then, keep him with you. Art room. 5 p.m. Sunday. Rhea tapped the token with a fingernail. You ready to write a city you don't own? No one owns it, Maya said. That's the point. Outside, dusk slid down the boulevard like a promise collecting signatures. In the booth's stainless reflection, Maya looked like someone who had stopped being on the run long enough to point toward a finish line and call it a starting line instead. Keep your head on a swivel, Rhea said, finishing her pie. And keep that token. The city loves a round trip. Maya pocketed it. The roof would be the proof. Sunday would be a route. And the city, stubborn, cracked, generous in the corners, would decide whether to believe her. She planned to make it easy. The prepaid phone buzzed again. Buzzing like it believed it was owed attention. Maya opened it under the diner table. Thumb sliding cautious. Message. Are you coming? I can be quiet if you need quiet. Jonah. Her heart folded in half. She typed. I'm listening. Tell me where you are now. The reply was fast, like a child who's learned to watch for green lights. Room with chairs that stick. Says we can't leave because of balloons. Balloons? Evan asked, leaning in. Decoration for Dunn's narrative, Maya said. He's dressing a cage. Maya pulled out her real phone, still dark, still airplane. She powered it just long enough to cue a message to Lee. 2 phones now. Prepaid is Jonah. Real phone only for dumps. Keep lines separate. Then shut it off again, battery sliding like guilt. Across the street, Windbreaker loitered under a billboard advertising cheap dental work. He looked like someone who'd lost his bite. 2 phones, 2 stories, Evan said. But only 1 kid. Then we build 1 roof, Maya whispered, touching the crayon folded in her bag. They spent the next day in transit. Buses, markets, benches, nowhere long enough to be mapped. Rhea kept them moving like an unofficial route. Noah became their ghost eye, sending texts with grainy zooms. He's 3 blocks back. He lost you at the laundromat. He's at the donut shop pretending to like sprinkles. That night, in a borrowed basement office beneath a Korean church, Maya finally told Evan the whole thread. The gala. The photocopy. The caseworker who vanished. The boy who asked about roofs. Her alias. You didn't quit because of him, Evan said. You didn't quit because you thought maybe you were the only one who could answer him. Maya sat cross-legged on the carpet, the crayon drawing unfolded on her knees. If I leave, who tells Jonah the roof isn't permanent? Who tells him quiet isn't the only way? Evan looked at her like an EMT who knows when a wound will scar. You can't build it alone. That's how roofs collapse. Silence, then the prepaid phone blinked again. This time the message wasn't from Jonah. Unknown tomorrow, your name will be a press release. You can control the angle if you return what you took. The city forgives actresses. Maya's throat tightened. They're already writing my ending. Then change the script, Evan said simply. The frame came the next morning. Local news. Charity worker questioned in missing funds investigation. A blurred photo. Maya at the library printer's, head down, hair tied back. Caption. Anonymous source claims she accessed donor records without clearance. This is done, Evan said, jaw tight. He staged you into his ledger. Now you're the thief. The article quoted a nonprofit executive, calling her a rogue contractor. It suggested she'd siphon money through unknown partners. They hadn't named her, not yet, but the photo was enough. Her face was on page 1 for people who like stories about betrayal. Her prepaid phone buzzed. "Are reporters here?" Dunn gave them names. I said nothing. Jonah drew a roof with fire. He says roofs burn too. Maya's chest folded. He's teaching Jonah to think silence means survival. To think roofs collapse anyway. Evan's hand steadied hers. Not if we show him otherwise. That afternoon, Lee met them in a parking garage. He looked tired in the kind of way that comes from choosing sides. He handed Maya a folded incident report. "This never made it past my desk," he said. "But if it had, it would have made you look complicit. Dunn's handwriting is all over it. Even his cover-ups are lazy." "You'll be pulled for this," Maya said. "Good," Lee said. "I'm overdue." It was Noah's photo that cracked it. She'd zoomed into her original Fairfax shot, not for Maya this time, but for the stranger in the corner. The man with the jacket that bulged wrong. She sent the enlarged frame to Maya. Caption: "Your ghost had a name tag. Marcos." Clear enough to show he wasn't just on the bus. He was planted there. Dunn's private staff dressed as public concern. Evan studied the pixels. "That puts him with you before you ever touched the locker." "It proves they were already tailing me," Maya said. "It proves they knew I wasn't the thief. They needed me to be the story." Lee filed it quietly, a breadcrumb in a system allergic to trails. Rhea forwarded it to 2 drivers who knew half the city. "Word will spread," she said. "Even rumors have mileage." Jonah texted a new drawing. A bus with wings again, this time flying over a burning house. Beneath it, in shaky block letters, "Ms. July saves roofs." Maya pressed the paper flat against her chest. "We can't let him down." "No," Evan said. "We won't." Sunday, 4:55 p.m. The art walk was alive. Chalk murals on sidewalks, jazz from a corner brass trio, vendors hawking necklaces made from keys that had lost their locks. Crowds thick with cameras that didn't know what they'd capture yet. At 5 o'clock, Rhea's bus rolled slow into the avenue, hazard lights flashing. The driver's voice came over the PA with bureaucratic calm. "Detour due to hydrant service. Expect short delay." Doors hissed open. Maya stepped aboard. Reflective vest back on, bag against her ribs. Evan followed, lanyard swinging. Noah was already there. Camera perched on her lap like it belonged. Lee boarded in plain clothes, sitting stiff as if chairs weren't built for cops. The crowd outside, passers-by, vendors, artists, drifted closer, drawn by curiosity's gravity. Phones lifted. Maya walked to the front, turned, and without notes, without a mic, held up Jonah's crayon drawing. "This is a roof," she said, voice pitched not to the room but to the city. "A roof that was supposed to keep a boy safe. The money you gave built this roof. But the roof was wrong." She held the second paper aloft. A ledger line. "The numbers say the roof was right. But the roof itself," she shook the crayon house, green sky thick, "says otherwise." Phones filmed. The brass token in her pocket warmed. "This isn't about names," Maya said. "It's about roofs. And roofs don't lie." The bus filled with the silence of recognition. Cameras rolled. Somewhere, Dunn's carefully built narrative faltered. Outside, a boy's voice played faint from the prepaid phone in Maya's pocket. Broadcast just enough to be caught by a microphone someone forgot to mute. "Miss July, is the roof going to be okay now?" And the city leaned in, ready to decide. The moment at the art walk bus cracked something open. Phones live-streamed before Dunn's team could smother the noise. The drawing of Jonah's roof traveled faster than press releases. By nightfall, hashtags stitched themselves across feeds. Hashtag wrong roof, hashtag Ms. July, hashtag transparency matters. Dunn's response was swift. A statement went out at 7 p.m. "We regret the disruption caused by a former contract worker. Our mission remains strong. Donations are safe." A photo of smiling children, stock, too polished, tried to drown out the ledger pages that were already circulating. But in the cracks of that denial, something lived. Lee reported back. 2 city auditors filed emergency subpoenas. They've seen the scans. Dunn will try to seal them, but he can't seal the copies that are already in too many inboxes. In Koreatown, Maya and Evan met Rhea and Noah in the diner booth. Rhea spread out a map of the city. Dun's moving fast. He'll corner you before the papers breathe. She tapped the parking structure near Shoreline Shelter. That's where he stages vans. You'll be there before dawn. Maya touched the token in her pocket. Why? Because that's where people disappear quietly, Rhea said flat. And he thinks you'll go silent. Then we don't disappear, Maya said. We go loud. The parking structure was half dark, half empty, its lamps buzzing like they'd lost the argument with time. At 3:15 a.m., Maya and Evan slipped in through the ramp, Lee shadowing them with his hand near his hip, radio muted. Marcos, I've stepped out first, polo gone, jacket back. You should have stayed quiet, he said. You'd have been forgotten. Dunn emerged from behind a pillar, coat immaculate despite the hour. Maya, he said smoothly, finally using her name. I admired your work ethic. I admire even more your sense of theater. But theater is only useful if the script is mine. Maya kept her hand on the bag strap. The city doesn't need your script anymore. Dunn smiled thinly. The city doesn't read. It consumes headlines. Tomorrow's headline will be that you falsified ledgers to slander a charity. Marcos here will testify to seeing you. He gestured lazily. Stealing documents. You'll be a scandal, not a martyr. Evan stepped forward. Funny. Because tomorrow's headline is already out. He lifted his phone, screen glowing with Noah's feed. Tens of thousands watching the microphone live. Dunn's polished composure cracked a fraction. You, Dunn began, but Lee's voice cut sharp. Enough. You're under arrest for obstruction of justice. He held the badge like a blade. Marcos moved fast, gun half drawn. Evan shoved Maya down. The shot went wide, ricocheting off concrete. Rhea's voice thundered from the entrance. Transit cops incoming. Cameras rolling. A city bus idled outside. Headlights pouring in like judgment. Cornered, Dunn tried to retreat. But the bus's dashcam, the diner's phone feeds, Noah's lens, all pointed inward. For once, Dunn had no corner left to respect. By dawn, Dunn was in custody, but his empire still twisted. Shell companies don't vanish with one arrest. They splinter. The city wanted testimony. That morning, in a hearing room with microphones older than trust, Maya spoke. She read from Jonah's drawing first, not the ledgers. This is what the money was supposed to buy. A roof. Safe. Right. When the numbers lied, this is how we knew. Then came the ledgers. Halima read. The weary CFO stepped forward next. I tried to make columns balance when they weren't meant to. I let myself believe everyone does it. I was wrong. Her voice cracked, but she didn't stop. Finally, the woman who had kept Jonah in the art room, appeared. She carried the boy's drawings in a folder and placed them on the table. These aren't art, she said. They're testimony. When a child draws a burning roof, it's because he's been taught to expect collapse. We can do better. Jonah himself wasn't there, but his presence filled the air. The drawings, the numbers, the names, they made the story undeniable. The press conference was brutal. Dunn's lawyers tried to spin it as sabotage, but every camera caught the cracks. Ledger scans. Witnesses. Photos of Marcos on the bus, uniform swapped like a mask. Maya stood outside the library, token warm in her palm, while Lee spoke into microphones. These documents reveal systemic diversion of funds meant for shelters. Survivors and caseworkers came forward. We are pursuing charges. Rhea stood at her side, hands in her vest pockets. Crowds believe roofs more than numbers, she murmured. Good work. Noah uploaded a final cut of her footage, Art Walk, the bus, Maya holding Jonah's drawing. The video titled itself, The Roof Doesn't Lie. Within hours, it trended higher than Dunn's denials. For the first time in weeks, Maya wasn't running. She was being seen. And being seen no longer felt like a threat. The bus was half full that morning. Nurses in scrubs, a man with a guitar case, a child pressing her nose to the window. Sunlight striped the seats in gold. Maya sat by the window, bag lighter now that the ledgers were with investigators, not her. The brass token rested in her palm. She rubbed its worn edge, then slipped it into her pocket like an old friend. Evan boarded at the next stop, coffee in one hand, his tired smile in the other. He slid into the seat beside her. "Quiet day," he said. "Quiet's good," Maya replied. The bus hummed forward. Outside, roofs shone in morning light, ordinary and upright. Somewhere in the city Jonah drew again, this time a house with a skylight, not smoke. Maya leaned her head against the glass. For the first time in too long, she wasn't calculating exits. She was writing a route. The city's corners had been respected, and they had led her here. A round trip. Arrival.